So your conference or event is about to kick off. You might be at the airport, the conference center, or the hotel, but you need to stay in touch with your team. Half are using text messages, some are using Slack, and all of the volunteers are using WhatsApp. Trying to keep it all straight is driving you nuts, and you just wish there was an easier way. Well, maybe there is. Join us as we chat with Seth Kenvin, founder of There.app, a tool that allows you to communicate on-site with your team, share files, and know precisely where everyone is. Seth, welcome to the program. I won't dive into all of the trials and tribulations we've actually had getting to this point. But no, it's awesome to have you here now. We have talked about their app in the past. Tess and I did a video on it not too long ago, and I actually think you were a guest when we were at Event Tech Live a couple of years ago, and then even when Bob Tuvey of Event Planner News and I had the Bullet Bliss podcast, you were either a guest or we talked about it along those lines. But just to get everybody up to speed, introduce yourself and give us a quick walkthrough of the There app that before we dive in. That way everyone knows kind of what to expect and what kind of a tool it is.
Yeah, gladly. So my name is Seth. I've worked in a few areas professionally, including working on building out software generally around collaboration and how people accomplish goals together. But also functionally, I've worked a decent amount in activities that involve on-site field operations, like exhibiting at trade shows, organizing meetings, shooting videos. And putting those things together, I felt like in my experiences working on site was, if anything, getting kind of less focused and productive over time as there was a spread of more SaaS apps for different things in different ways. You'd stay in touch with different people on the team, and the fact that you're on site and where people are becomes a relevant thing to monitor that's not accessible through these platforms, and these platforms offer distractions outside of the particular project. And generally, people wound up too mired in their devices and technologies, looking up information instead of having it at hand, and had less focus to be on site, making sure that we were getting all of our marketing qualified leads, or we were getting our shoots done on time, or whatever the goal of the project was. So their app aspires to be a resource to support people in those circumstances of working on site, in event operations, in conference production and things like that, to execute better and be better coordinated.
So when we're talking about, oh no, go ahead, Kate.
No, go. You're probably going to ask the same question I was, so you go, hit it.
No. Go ahead.
We can use this part.
Sure, why not? So, but no, my question was simply that yes, to your point, there are so many, other platforms out there that people can be using, whether it's WhatsApp or email or text messages, and they do offer a lot of other distractions. But what are some of the key features of their app that planners should know? That why does it keep people focused, and what are some of the other perks, I guess you'd ask, or you'd say, of using their app?
Mm-hmm. The most essential distinctions include the fact that the app is architected so that your focus is on the particular project in which you're engaged at that time, especially during the time that you're on site at that project. But within that project focus, you have access to all the areas of information, team communication, and on-site execution that are relevant to getting it done. And to be more specific, what I mean is whether it's looking up a place, referencing an appointment, seeing the next to-do item on someone's list, understanding someone's contact information, or even where to see them. You sort of have this fluid access to all those things that So now I am in a project, and this is some of the diversity I was just referencing. And you can see on one page, I've got information about a person. If I click through, I can see their specific details. If they share them, I can even ask for their live location. Also, I can actually see on that same page how the other modules in the app relate to them. What tasks are assigned to this person? What events are on her calendar? What chats are we in together? But on this page, I've organized what's most important for my team to know, right? So it's focused on this particular project, in this case, the production of an art festival. And within this project, it's making a person accessible, and then it's highlighting what's most important among locations. This icon references our Places module, which I'll hop to a couple of our modules momentarily. And then what's the most important kickoff appointment? That's from our Events module. So again, like whether it's a person, a place, an appointment, web page, to-do item, all of those things are kind of accessible fluidly for people to execute. In this example, someone building a page that highlights what's most important towards the top. So what we're looking at here is actually the most recent module that we launched. This is a page from our board module. And again, like besides letting all this functionality be laid out, also gives the person producing the event who is eager to make the right impression on their team, to keep people aligned and motivated, or if it's a client circumstance, to keep that client satisfied. So we give capabilities to control editorial and design considerations as well. And if I click on any of these icons, I'll go to the other modules. So now I'm going to leave the board module, for example, to go to our events module, which has our calendar. So this is our schedule of activities within this particular project. Again, I can click through and go from a appointment to look up information about a person who's in that appointment, to see information about a task assigned to that person. And whenever there's location information to show, we're going to bring that on map. So this is, again, another way that we're distinctive from a lot of collaboration and teamwork environments, is we add this location dimension with rich functionality. So like if I click on an icon here, I can see what appointment that references, just like I can see it below. I can take action, like if I click this icon, I'm going to call it Google Map Navigation, and I'll be able to get, find directions to that place from any of the other places in the project. So if I click one of these links, it would then hand it off to Google Maps.
That's really cool. So if you click on another location, it's going to actually pull up the directions?
So so if I click on an icon, I get information about that location, and if I click this navigation option, then I can call up navigation either straight to Google Maps or pick one of the places that's in the project and call for a map for directions to get from one of them to the other.
Oh, see, that is cool.
So all the modules are here on this drop down, and they're all basically straightforward versions of what you see there, right? So there's a task module that likewise is going to show information on map based on where tasks are assigned. I can share files relevant to the project, either uploading directly or putting in a URL, for example, for a Dropbox file. So you can see both kinds of files in this particular project. Places in the project are tracked independently as well, and we can index whatever web pages are relevant to the particular project and have those accessible. So again, like it's one resource for all the kinds of information that are related to the project, all the kinds of execution, especially presented in a simple way for straightforward on-site execution, and communication. So if I go, for example, to the team module, I am logged in here as our demo user, and I am actually logged in on my phone as myself. So I'm going to have the demo user chat to me and maybe point out that, So what I just did there is I went into our task module. So these are all our modules. I could pick a web page from our web module, a place from so I picked a task from our task module, and
So as you're doing that, Seth, let's put it in context for use case. You've produced and planned your event from beginning, and now we're to the end for on-site. It's in several different platforms. You've got registration tool. You've got a cloud-based service or a service to hold files. You've got project management aspects of planning the event. So people on the team that you've invited to share information. And then now what you're saying is that I now have a tool to bring all of those things into one place so it's there in the palm of my hand. And this is the way that we can apply that and pull that information
Yeah, and
together.
just to
Am I
clarify,
correct with that?
yeah, and just the one thing I would add for clarification, if it wasn't clear, is that this is specifically for the team with which you're coordinating on the at the event, right? So this isn't
Correct.
necessarily for
Correct.
the dozens or even hundreds of attendees in the audience. There
Right.
might be multiple groups using our app within the event. Maybe there's a sponsoring company that has half a dozen people there, and they need to be coordinated in addition to whoever's running
Right.
like technical AV operations on site.
So,
Right. So it's really truly in the bread and butter around on site. So it's literally all of the different people that have to make the event move forward and pull it together on site. It's a way for them to be able to communicate and keep track. And I can manage staff this way, right?
Yeah, and ideally and hopefully delivered in a way in which you find that it really keeps your attention on what's in front of you and what's going on around you and doesn't like tax more attention that you really have to give inside of a screen.
well, and piggybacking on what Tess said, I think that all of those on-site folks that are working the event may not necessarily be the people who are planning the event, right? That are part of that core team. So this is a great way when you don't want to give all of those people access to like Dropbox folders, Google Drive folders, whatever happens to be, they just need a particular file, right? Whether they're a volunteer or there's someone who's maybe going to work the registration desk, this allows them to have the information that they need without having to wade through, mountains of data that are in like a larger Dropbox folder or something like this. And it also allows you to kind of keep track of, where staff are at a particular given time. We have an event coming up at the end of June where a number of the team members actually have to go off-site for an event. They're going to go 15 miles away. This is actually a great way to say, hey, they're still, if they're unable to text or call or something, you can actually go into the There app and say, hey, you know what? We know that they're not back yet, so I'm going to have to assign this person to something that one of those folks might have to take care of when they got back. So that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's really, again, like built with consideration of a number of the aspects that you just referred to, right? So the fact that you have on the fly team formation, people you're not previously familiar with, they're not really tuning in at all to what's going on until they actually show up on site. So,
Like
you
me.
know,
That's me. That's me. I'm that person. I don't want to know it till you made a decision.
right. So the fact that the app is as straightforward as it is, like lets these people navigate it quickly and easily. You're looking at it here. It looks like an app, and it is an app. It's an Android app and an iPhone app, but it's also a web app. You're looking at it here in a browser, so people can use it with full capabilities, especially for getting started before they even make the commitment of downloading an app or not. We do a lot, the layout of a page to help clarify what are priorities for the team. All those things are done to, just presume that we're trying to service people in an environment where they have snippets of half a minute or a minute at a time to like focus on looking at a screen and need to be like heads up and productive, even if they're just showing up and catching wind of what's going on around them.
Well, and I think, and there are a lot of different use cases, right, for this. As you mentioned, my thinking is with the event team, right? But you also mentioned if a sponsor actually had, an activation going on, their team could be using their app. Pretty much anyone who has anything to do with the event could actually even have their own versions for their particular team. So it's not only a tool for the planning side, it's also a tool for exhibitors, sponsors, anyone who might have anything to do with a particular event.
Yeah, and actually, like, there's really interesting, even like crossover potential across those populations. Like, if you have the production of an event and they have, some count of exhibiting participants or sponsoring participants or presenting participants, they can set up these projects for the specific exhibitors, for example, and make it available to each one of them, and those projects can be pre-populated with useful or promotional or both information regarding the event itself. Here's where you should get an espresso. Here's a PDF with all the stuff you have to know. Here's the
So
web
it's,
page for the art
oh
festival going
my,
on down the
you
block.
just blew my mind at that one, Seth, because I was thinking of one use case, which I'll mention in a second, but I literally think, yes. So that, my goodness. Okay, blew my mind. So you could utilize it for sponsor relation. You could utilize it for your VIPs so
Yeah.
that they have information on how to navigate. So what I was
It can be
literally
used by
thinking is,
venues for site visits before the event.
yes, yes, and that's another thing I was thinking about. And I also was thinking about I had to do an event a couple weeks ago, and it will remain nameless. But I was in the stage managing role, and we had to quote unquote herd cats. And there is a litany of people along the way that these people are coming from a red carpet. They are socializing, then they needed to be brought from socializing to go on stage at some point,
Hmm.
and it's not close, right? So how can we keep track? So we could have all, as a quote unquote backstage team, been a part of that, because that whole piece with the VIP experience was a whole nother set of people who were managing that had nothing to do with managing the stage, if you will. So
Hmm.
this is literally really cool. So I would have always known where that person was and where the handoff and the baton was about to come to me, so that I can get you mic, so that I can send you to the teleprompter,
Hmm.
so that I can make sure that you hit the cue and hand it off to the people who are going to place you on all the things. Oh my gosh. I just worked it out. Yes, Seth.
That is really a cool use case, and that takes it like to the next level, right? I
It
mean,
does. This is like my world. This is like what I love the
Uh,
most. Like all of that.
Right, and I guess consistent with that, a lot of what we've emphasized lately, again, some of which I've shown and some of which has been on screen without me pointing it out, is we're thinking more about what we provide, especially at this launch phase for our company, as an environment for basically a service provider or vendor to engage best with their clients. And
Yes.
really number
Yes.
one, like finally get the events world like out of the era of manila folders and clipboards, and be more useful technologically, but to do so in a way that's like really considerate of the client and their priorities, and also just reflects the production quality of the event. So small
Right.
things like the ability to upload a logo that corresponds to particular production. We let you pick the color theme that you see here in this bezel area, including an ability to automatically match it to the logo. Again, like you saw before in our board module, the capability to build out a page and put design elements into that. And editorial elements, and just have this be like, really a good stage to give clients confidence that this is a project that's well managed. This is a team that's making themselves accessible. I'm going to pay these guys 50% more to do the same thing next year.
but
Absolutely. And oh, go ahead, Keith. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off on this one. I got
let
to.
go.
So on the landing page that you have right there, Seth, I didn't even think about this. So let's say overall the event has that landing page with all of
Mhm.
the general things that need to be there. And then let's say me, like I said, I'm stage managing. Can I go and customize my own personal landing page that doesn't have anything to do with changing the main one, so that
Yeah,
I
this
can
is a
see,
board, right? So
or do I create it, or do I do a sub event that's just for backstage? Like, do we do it that way, or what's the best way to set up overall
I
event,
mean,
and then I create my own for my own little
right.
area?
So with the current state of the product, you're probably best off starting multiple projects. We will have more capabilities in the short term, like to have projects that better manage the fact that like I've got my my contractors over here, my clients over here, and I want some control over who's accessing what. But generally, like this board, I mean, if I click this plus button, I'm building a new board. At any time, you can have multiple boards within a project. one board can be starred. We'll have more of like a home capacity so that you can like pin one basically to the top of the project. But those are all kind of, consistent with where we're taking that.
But
Nice, nice.
for transparency with most events, right? Having multiple boards within one is okay.
Yeah, you
But
can
to
Yeah.
have one
Tess's
per
point, if
day,
you
one per
yeah,
team.
but if you needed to create, depending, like I know one of the events that Tess just worked on where they would probably want to break it out into its own separate elements or separate, projects, because you don't want the two commingling. But I just look at this from a standpoint of making life easier for everybody who's on site, right? We've come off of many, many different events where, they're using a tool, let's say WhatsApp, right? And they'll say, okay, this is the WhatsApp channel we're all going to use. Well, when everyone's using the same WhatsApp channel, it will make you insane. And what happens is people start ignoring it because there are 8,000 conversations, as I knock things off the desk,
Right.
8,000 conversations that are going on that in one thread that literally have nothing to do with what your role is.
Yeah. Yeah, so this gives you like a little bit more of a dimension instead of like basically one chat thread for the entire team. There's a chat environment within your project, and in this, well, here you've got a bunch, and they can have names. You can have multiple chats with the same people. Each has a different thread. So yeah, and we try to like come up with basically like approaches that have some combination of clarity and simplicity with like enough dimension to not have the problem of one gigantic noisy room with stuff that's irrelevant to most of the people.
So for anyone who wanted to start using their app, how does it work, right? Does it
So
work? Is
yeah,
it by a project basis, an event basis? Is it an annual thing, or what is your launch kind of looking like?
well, team me up well. We're pre-commercial launch. There's been a lot to build. I mean, the nature of our solution is based again on being a single resource for all these aspects of accessing info, communicating with the team, and executing on site. And and even still, like I've made reference in this call, like I'm not supposed to do to what we still have to build, but there's stuff left for us to build. So we're a pre-commercial product. I hope what comes through that like we're ready for like really solid use among a mature team, and we're trying to basically advance our beta and pilot usage program. So we actually have a special program running right now, which I have a landing page for queued up here. So let me quickly show that, mostly just to tell you the address, as you can see, is there.app and then slash, and it's launch partners with a hyphen. So as this landing page points out, a lot of the highlights of the product to which I just made reference, and it's a program in which if you have a project that fits our use case happening in the next few months, and that means a project that involves activity that's on site happening over the course of a few hours or a few days with a team that maybe is measured in the dozens, 5 to 50 people collaborating. We'd love to work with you on getting a great project built and executed. We're happy to be there with direct support and consultation. And then beyond the project, we'd like to consult with you about your experience and figure out what our priorities are and should be going forward. And from there, we're going to extend free use of our product for ways going forward. Let's connect more to go over the details of that. But basically, yeah, this landing page cites some of the highlights and leads to a survey in which you can tell us a little bit about your project activity, how frequently, how big they are, and what technology you use. And if it looks like it's good alignment with what we're looking for, you get the chance to be a free There.app user for several years. So that's how it could work for you if you
Nice.
fill out this
I'm
survey now.
excited about that though, Seth. I mean, come on now. So Keith and I are always the ones to try to get our feet nice and dirty in apps early on the ground up. And it's our pleasure to really bring something to our watchers and listeners around pre-launch time,
Uh-huh.
because sometimes you can really get what you want. People don't realize that tech companies are out there and wanting to hear from their users or potential users to help develop and grow. And that's really
Yeah.
truly how it should be, because no one has all the answers. So actually to have an ability to be able to test it out and then also be a part of that growth, because I think this is going to be excellent for my people, all my execution people. That's why I call my company iSocial
Uh,
Execution. That's the focus.
right.
This is going to be amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, all of our customers and users are indeed like special and brilliant, but the truth is we're in a market in which there's a lot of fish in the sea. Like we're focused on, event execution, especially by independent parties that are bringing production services. And there's a lot of entities like that out there in the world, and we'd like to find a few dozen to engage with especially closely to mutual benefit and use that to make sure we have the right product for all those other billions of fish, basically.
Yeah, definitely,
Well,
definitely.
and
Well,
I
I
think
will say there's really nothing that I've ever seen to help us. Not like this.
yeah, well, and what a cool way to bring it, right? Typically what happens is, developers or whoever, event tech companies, they create something and they go, well, here it is. This is how it works. Go use it. Whereas you guys have kind of taken a little bit of a different tact where you're like, hey, we built it. Go ahead and use it, and then tell us how it should, tell us how to fix it or tell us how to make it better, which is
Right.
actually a really cool thing that most event tech companies don't do.
Uh,
Right, right. We don't do enough of
right.
publicly.
Yes,
And
publicly.
so I thank you for that, Seth.
Uh,
I really thank you. And we're going to make sure that you get some great ones in there.
Yeah, Tess, you want to bring us home?
Can I do a dark screen? No, not until I ask him this one. Do can I do dark background instead of white background? Does it have that ability yet? If not, that's my first contribution.
are you talking about Riverside? Oh, you're talking about
No,
us?
yeah, dark mode.
Yes.
Oh, so we have dark mode. Oh, no, we haven't done dark mode. Yeah, that's
Okay.
really,
Dark mode,
is
top
that
of
what you
list, please. Say Tess said do
Yeah,
dark mode.
do?
Dark mode.
and I'll second that
Yeah.
one. So it's the upvotes. There's two upvotes on dark mode.
All right.
Yeah. So that Seth, this has been eye-opening, I think, for some of our listeners and those of you who do realize that the life on-site execution is very different than a life planning the event. And now we finally have a technology that can help us pull those elements together in a non-committal way, is what I like to say. And that's why I was trying to ask that question earlier. It's a non-committal way. So you can play and do all the
Right.
things and all the different other technologies, but literally when you need to focus on the event itself, to me, it's a lightweight thing that can sit in the
Mhm.
palm of my hand and give me the information I need so I can move through all of the elements for on-site pretty smoothly. Did I miss anything with that? I hope I
Th-
didn't, Keith.
I
Did
think
I?
you nailed it. I think you nailed it.
Oh, oh. So thank you again, Seth. We really appreciate you being here. I can't wait to go ahead and maybe in about, let's say, 6 months from now, come back around and see where we are with things.
Well, hopefully you'll have
Um,
6 months of experience using it between now and then.
yeah, absolutely. And see what kinds of things we can do and play with then.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Event Tech Pull-Up. Make sure to visit our website, eventtechpullup.com. That's eventtechpullup.com. And find us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube so you never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating or simply tell a friend about our brand of crazy. That would be amazing.